Thank you for being here today. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge the tragic events that happened last night in Maine. CBP and the entire Department of Homeland Security grieves with the loved ones of those killed and injured, and we are standing with the law enforcement personnel and first responders who are responding. Back in June, as part of targeted cargo examinations, CBP officers working at LAX opened a box arriving from Asia labeled simply as keyboards. Inside, instead, they found 175 pounds of chemicals. Testing by CBP confirmed that these were chemical precursors used to manufacture fentanyl, destined for a warehouse along the US-Mexican border, where cartels produce pills that they smuggle back into our communities. Thanks to CBP's targeting analysis capabilities and our partnerships, this smuggling network was disrupted. But in their determination to fuel the fentanyl epidemic that is ravaging our communities, these criminals are sophisticated, innovative, and relentless. So are our efforts to stop them. CBP first encountered and stopped small quantities of fentanyl in early 2016 in envelopes traveling via international mail or concealed in passenger vehicles passing through a port of entry like this one here in San Ysidro. Now our agents and officers find precursor chemicals, pill presses, dyes, other machinery parts, and finished fentanyl coming through our land, air, and sea ports of entry. In just one September day at New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport, officers seized 14 pill press dye sets arriving from China in separate shipments. CBP is America's front line against fentanyl. We have the right capabilities, from interdiction to intelligence capabilities. We're in the right places, at our land borders, in between the ports, in international airports, in both the passenger and air cargo environments, and at our maritime borders too. And we know what works: intelligence-driven operations, relentless targeting, people, partnerships, and technology. CBP is well positioned to lead the federal government's efforts in this fight. That's why today I am proud to announce the updated CBP strategy on combating fentanyl and synthetic drugs. And it's not an accident that we are announcing this strategy here in San Ysidro, where they process more than 100,000 passengers every single day. 47% of CBP's nationwide fentanyl seizures happen in the San Diego field office. CBP officers and agents are operating at locations throughout the entire supply chain. They are able to detect, identify, and seize illicit drugs and production materials used in the illicit production of synthetics from entering the country using advanced data, analytics, strategic intelligence-driven operations, and non-intrusive inspection technology enhancements to achieve results. The stakes couldn't be higher. In calendar year 2022, more than 107,000 Americans died of drug overdoses, a majority of those from fentanyl. In California alone, in 2021, that number was nearly 6,000. That's 6,000 parents, children, neighbors, friends, and family. While CBP is committed to leading the fight against fentanyl, we cannot do it alone. That's why I'm so proud to be here at San Ysidro today, standing along so many key partners from across Southern California to further our efforts to keep these dangerous drugs off our streets and out of our communities. Today we are launching Operation Apollo, a Southern California counter-fentanyl joint operation. This is the first step in enacting our new CBP strategy to combat fentanyl, and it won't be our last, in ruthlessly attacking the criminals that trade in synthetic drugs at the expense of American lives. Led by CBP, Operation Apollo will leverage intelligence collection to build on previous operations, specifically to understand and better address tactics, techniques, and processes transnational criminal organizations use. Apollo will also improve and add to law enforcement intelligence on trafficking networks in Southern California. While fentanyl is the principal target of the operation, our partners will also use the intel gathered to target fentanyl analogs, other opioids, precursor chemicals, and synthetics like methamphetamine and xylazine. I am deeply grateful to the partners that are here today who have been instrumental in building this operation and who I know will work around the clock to see it through. In addition to these key partnerships, CBP needs additional resources to keep funding this fight. Last week, President Biden requested that Congress pass a supplemental budget to increase the number of CBP agents and officers, as well as fund critical detection equipment to prevent transnational criminal organizations from trafficking fentanyl and other deadly opioids through our ports of entry. This request for increase in personnel and technology, if passed, will help us continue moving the needle forward in the fight against fentanyl. Before I close, I want to express my gratitude to the CBP workforce. Our officers and agents rise every day to face challenges with tenacity and integrity here in San Diego, across the country, and around the world. They are vigilant and dedicated to our mission. The fight against fentanyl is no different, and so many of us take this very personally. Tragically, like so many Americans, we've lost family members, friends, and neighbors to the drugs devastation. It is our highest responsibility to protect our country and our communities, one we don't take lightly. We appreciate you and thank you for everything you do every single day. In closing, I cannot emphasize enough how vital a whole-of-government approach is to stop illicit finance, halt the illegal importation of fentanyl, its precursors, the machinery used to produce it, and disrupt the production mechanisms and supply chains operated by the criminals who stand to profit from it. CBP is on the front line of this fight. The enemy is unrelenting, but working together, we are determined to win. Thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to our good partner, Mayor Gloria.
Commissioner Miller, thank you so much for traveling across the country to highlight the great work being done to address the fentanyl crisis here at San Diego's border with Mexico, and to make this important announcement about CBP's strategy on fentanyl and the launch of Operation Apollo. The key to our success in saving lives is by disrupting the illicit fentanyl trade will be in our ability to take a whole-of-government approach. So from the local government perspective, the City of San Diego is proud to work with our federal, state, county, tribal, and other agencies to take this crisis head on. We have strong relationships here in San Diego with our federal law enforcement leaders. And I want to particularly thank and acknowledge U.S. Border Patrol San Diego Sector Chief Diane McGurk, as well as CBP San Diego Field Operations Director Sydney Aki for their work on this issue. Commissioner Miller, I can attest, these folks work incredibly hard. These leaders and every one of them who work for them do an incredible job here. I've been to San Ysidro many times, seen their work at first person, and I can't thank you enough for the great work you do to keep our neighborhoods safe. They, of course, are backed up by local efforts to address our fentanyl crisis. Our San Diego Police Chief, David Nisleit, our San Diego County Sheriff, Kelly Martinez, as well as our great DA, Summer Steffen. We also had representation earlier from our City Attorney's Office. They, coupled with enforcement partners like DEA, HSI, FBI, and others who are here today, we had a very important conversation that really illustrate how San Diego comes together to get the job done. And now with this announcement today by CBP, I think we'll be able to get even more done. As the mayor of the city of San Diego, I'm extremely grateful to the Biden administration for their leadership on fentanyl, specifically for proposing the $106 billion emergency relief package this week that was mentioned by the commissioner. It includes $13.1 billion to hire needed DHS staff to secure our border against illegal fentanyl smuggling. Some of you joined me last week when we had a roundtable discussion on illicit fentanyl involving all levels of government with our California Attorney General, Rob Bonta. In that discussion, we shared strategies and are committed to strengthening our collaboration and discussed various actions that we can take going forward. I convened that roundtable because San Diego is on the forefront of this battle. In our city alone, 410 people died of accidental overdose involving fentanyl last year. For comparison, 5 years ago, 45 people died due to fentanyl overdose. That's an increase of over 800%. This crisis is even more acute on our streets, and it is supercharging our homelessness crisis. 5 years ago, 3 people experiencing homelessness died due to fentanyl overdose. Last year, it was 181. This is a national crisis with, as was mentioned, tens of thousands of Americans dying from fentanyl. Our estimate is about 200 a day. The rising prevalence of fentanyl is obvious, and the human toll is enormous, and we must stem the tide against this poison. It is so urgent. Less than a year ago, I signed an executive order that directed greater law enforcement and legislative action to address the fentanyl crisis here in the city of San Diego. That has resulted in a 63% increase in the arrests for fentanyl dealers in the city of San Diego. We've also worked to expand shelter beds with drug treatment services in partnership with the County of San Diego, purchase laser detection devices for our police department to use to test substances that they encounter in the field, a jail diversion program to get low-level offenders into treatment. And probably most popularly, we've got 3 trained dogs now to sniff out fentanyl on the streets and keep our officers safe. At the state level, I've partnered with legislators to introduce bills to enhance penalties on dealers when their actions result in someone's death. I regret to report to you that neither bill passed this year, but I am committed to continuing to seek state legislation in 2024 that holds reckless and craven drug dealers responsible for these poisonings. The fact remains that illicit fentanyl presents a grave danger to our communities and to our society. Upwards of 800 people dying each year in our county due to fentanyl, and now with the introduction of xylazine or tranq, this crisis is continuing to evolve, and it's only getting more dangerous. We cannot be passive observers in the face of this crisis. I've heard the stories, I've seen the despair, I've seen the predatory manner in which dealers prey on our most vulnerable residents. Greater enforcement and harsher penalties for illicit fentanyl dealers is an imperative. In today's announcement around Operation Apollo and CBP's coordinated fentanyl strategy build upon the culture of partnership and collaboration that we've built here in San Diego, and it takes it to a national stage. So again, I want to thank Commissioner Miller for coming to San Diego to talk about the Department of Customs and Border Protection's latest efforts to tackle this deadly crisis. I want to make sure that he understands that we here in San Diego are ready to do whatever it takes to stop this crisis and to save lives. With that, I'm happy to turn it back to Commissioner Miller.
Great, thanks for your time for a few questions. The first one is Shelley from NBC. Why is it important that we're making this announcement here and not in
Well, first of all, look beside me. The partnerships and relationships in Southern California between the law enforcement and the dedication to go after fentanyl is unparalleled here. Second of all, 200,000 people cross our borders here in Director Aki's area of responsibility. That's 20% of all passengers that enter into the U.S. every single day come through San Diego. Third of all, 47% of all fentanyl seizures happen here in San Diego. So I thought it was important that we got together with the community leaders. We kicked off our new strategy and Operation Apollo with the community leaders, our federal, state, and local partners who know so much about this crisis, that know where and how to attack it, to get the resources down here that are necessary, and kick off our strategy here, where 47% of all fentanyl comes through.
Next, we'll go to Julie from AP. I have a question just regarding the logistics. Why is it important that we're making this announcement here and not in?
So thank you. First of all, that's a great question, and I'll start with what you mentioned. In LA, what we're seeing through master carton smuggling is we're seeing large boxes manifested as things like keyboards, but when we open up the box, it's unmanifested precursors, pre-labeled, going to the southwest border locations and going across the border. So number one, we want to start with the unmanifested precursors that are coming in through de minimis, and we're working very hard with our investigative partners, with our trade partners, and with our foreign partners to attack that problem. Second of all, what you're talking about is when precursors are being diverted. That's why we work very closely with Homeland Security investigations, DEA, and our foreign partners, and our brokers and our trade representatives, so we can identify what's illicit and what's not illicit. Through our National Targeting Center, we're able to run these bad actors through our databases and work with our partners to identify, then take the right action to bring them to justice.
Tony,
Considering all the challenges you have at the border to protect it, but there are drug cartels, immigration, what were behind the design of this strategy, the work?
So a couple of things. Number one, as I stated up front, I take this personally. The fentanyl is coming through our borders. It's killing folks in our communities. It's killing children, parents, grandchildren, our neighbors, our co-workers. So our job is to protect the American public. So we are going to continue to do that. We cannot do it alone at Customs and Border Protection. That's why I stand here with all of our partners. We had a concerted effort at the last part of 2023 to surge resources here in San Diego, Arizona, to work with our partners and seize additional narcotics. And we did that, and we learned from that, and we were able to surge resources to our airports and look for things like precursors, where we increased our precursor seizures, our pill presses, the dyes, the molds. And learning from that, we realized that we needed a sustained strategy, not just a surge of resources. So this is the kickoff, a sustained strategy to go after the transnational criminal organizations that are trafficking this poison into our communities along with our partners.
Talia?
Yes, I work CBP, Department of Homeland Security. We work with our Mexican partners every single day on information sharing, on really doing what it takes to identify those transnational criminal organizations and go after them. We have several agreements looking at precursors, pill presses that come through our countries, looking at the transnational criminal organizations that are trafficking weapons from the U.S. South. So yes, we continue to work with our partners in Mexico every single day.
Carlos?
Hi, I'm Carlos Gonzalez with CGN Noticias. Commissioner, something very important is the collaboration between both authorities, South and North. At the same time, the situation of see something, say something, especially the information. At those levels, how's the collaboration through this operative for that particular?
Again, thank you for the question. So our relationships with, if you're talking about our relationships with Mexico, first of all, they're strong, and through our collaboration, through our intelligence gathering, collection, and through our partners, we will share that information when we feel fit, when the information's ready to be shared with our partners, so they can do something about it.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. Salvador Rivera.
Good morning.
Fox 5 and Border Report. Two questions, if I may, and I don't mean to be sarcastic, but what took so long to get everyone on the same page? And number two, I don't know how much stock you put into this. Two separate cartels in Tijuana have laid out banners, narco bandas, claiming they're getting out of the fentanyl business. You buy that at all? Do you think that'll help?
Well, number one, this isn't the start. This is an iterative process. So we have been working with our partners. We continue to work with our partners, and we know we have to do more. So we stand here to do more. Number two, I put no stock in that.
Okay.
That's a great question. So there is no legitimate use for pill presses if they have not been licensed by DEA. So we're checking every single one of these for licensing requirements.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.